Tricia Gibson.
Chair. The development of the treatment offered by Orkambi has offered some hope, renewed hope, to those living with cystic fibrosis and their families. And Orkambi is suitable to treat around 50% of those with cystic fibrosis in the UK. And as we've heard today, this treatment can now be extended to those from age 6 years, as opposed to the original licence, which was to treat those aged 12 years and over. And we've heard today at some length about the controversy over the cost of this drug. However, as a Scottish MP, I was heartened by the Scottish Government's Cabinet Secretary for Health and Wellbeing, Shona Robeson MSP, who strongly encouraged the manufacturer Vertex to take forward discussions with the Patient Access Scheme Assessment Group Secretariat, and those conversations continue to be held. It's easy and perhaps obvious to point out the high cost of this drug, and we've heard much about that. But who in this chamber would not stretch every sinew for their child or loved one to access this drug if they could benefit from it? And that is why parents and relatives of those living with cystic fibrosis have been campaigning so hard. What else, Mr Chair, what else can they do? We've heard about the cost of the drug, and we have to remember, as we've heard, that the cost of this drug, yes, they're high, but they can be offset by reduced hospital admissions. We live in a world where, on the one hand, the NHS funding will seemingly always be under pressure as our technology advances. And a consequence of that is that the cost of treatment is always likely to be driven upwards. And these things are important, and we have to be mindful of them. But if your child or loved one could benefit from a treatment, however expensive, what would you not do to have them access that treatment? And it is this that drives those campaigning for access to Orkambi. And the campaign has been effective and, as we've heard today as well earlier, quite moving at times. And we must keep listening and empathising with what they are saying, because we cannot, in a debate like this, we cannot just talk about pounds and pence when it comes to treatment, because we are dealing with people's real lives. And that must guide how progress is made in this matter. And progress really must be made. And we all hope sooner rather than later. And I will indeed.
Thank you, Sir Roger. My point is very straightforward. It seems grossly unfair that some people can get hold of this drug and some people can't. And we really ought to level the playing field.
The honourable gentleman makes an excellent point, and that's why in Scotland we're setting up bodies at the moment to make sure that care and access to treatment is standardised right across Scotland, so that it doesn't depend on what particular health board you may live in or what particular route you can access to get this drug. And we've heard from the member from Dudley North that there is also a cost to not funding Orkambi, and we have to keep that in mind. We have to find a way forward as soon as we possibly can. We clearly need a more cost-effective proposition to be put forward by Vertex, the producing company, and a constructive solution worked out with the Scottish Medicines Consortium, and an equivalent solution found for the English NHS. I am hopeful that in Scotland, and I hope across the United Kingdom, a solution can be reached. But as we've heard today, it is important that the processes about decisions for approval of drugs, the processes are transparent and fair, and that we can all be confident that there is proper and extremely robust cost-benefit analysis carried out. We all hope, I think we've heard today, we all hope that a way forward can be found, that progress can be made with the pharmaceutical companies about the cost of treatments, and with Vertex about Orkambi in particular. This drug can make a real difference to many of those living with cystic fibrosis and their families, and we owe it to them to do all we can to work with the pharmaceutical industry to find a way to make this happen. And I sincerely hope that we can.
Yeah.